I've read a statistic about smartphones and the usage of them. It had about 10 different points, organized from most important to least important. Guess what's actually at the top of the priority list for most users? If you'd like to, feel free to write your answer in the comments below. Could be interesting to read. Of course, you guessed it right. Messaging and social media is the clear winner here. Especially younger users are regularly pushing 5, which is quite a lot, and more hours per day into their phones. So why am I actually bringing this up? Because quite a lot of people are buying €1,000 smartphones to scroll the web, answer emails, and consume social media, aka Reels, Shorts, and probably TikToks. And that's where I ask myself, what is actually relevant for someone only consuming content and not creating it? Is it the price? Is it storage? Is it the cameras on the back? Not really. I think this is nice to have, but not the main thing. In my opinion, it comes down to almost one single thing. It's the screens they are interacting with, and at the end of the day, also a long battery life. And this is actually where the CMF Phone 1 comes in. This thing costs €179 right now, and in my opinion, it is the perfect smartphone for consumers. And consumers is meant literally here. Users who are not planning on creating stuff, but rather use this for the daily needs, being connected with their friends and, well, consume things. I had this super budget phone for nearly 4 months now, since its release, and I occasionally used it for weeks at a time for scrolling, interacting, and consuming content. And it's really great at that. It has a long-lasting battery life of 5000 mAh, the same as in my Nothing Phone 2a. With regular usage, it often held up to 2 days. With heavy usage, a day is actually possible. And it has 33-watt fast charging, so filling it up quickly is no problem. The other thing that's really important is the screen. That's your main input device. It's where everything happens, where you consume and interact with. Of course, this is no Super XD Ultra 4K Retina Pearl Display Pro for €700. Instead, this is simply said the best screen you can get in a budget phone. Period. Nothing actually comes close to this. It's a 6.7-inch AMOLED display with a 120Hz refresh rate and a peak brightness of 2000 nits as well as HDR10+. In other words, it's big, it's fast, and it can get really bright when it needs to. Colors are accurate and vivid at the same time. Watching content on it is beautiful, photos are lively, and the 120Hz refresh rate makes everything buttery smooth. It's arguably the best display you can buy in this price segment. The only thing that's a bit wonky are the display borders, which are slightly bigger on top on the bottom. But hey, I get it, let's actually invest €800 more for them to be perfectly aligned in every corner. Here's a bit of scrolling and swiping through content to make it even clearer what I mean by buttery smooth. And while we're at it, let's talk about the Nothing OS a bit. It's a redesigned Android 14 with a custom shell on top. It's fine, it's fast, and it looks very nice. Everything you want and which you are used to in your regular Android phone is on board. As said before, it's Android 14 with a shiny new coat of paint on top. Using it is fast and fluent like every other smartphone actually should be. While using it, I mostly, just used it like any other phone I had before. There was nothing that actually reminded me of this being a budget phone. And I mean, this is how it actually should be. It's a shiny display with a great OS on board. That simply works. And now, a couple of months later, the ChatGPT integration is now also working flawlessly. You can use it on board via the app, or if you have a Nothing earbud, you can directly talk to it and ask questions. Now, speaking of shiny new things, one other thing a lot of people do with their smartphones is using it mostly for photos. Probably 90% for posing. And I'm saying mostly since videos are still in the minority. So, how does the cameras on the CMF Phone 1 work? Well, considering it only has one front and one back camera, it's quite good in this regard. Let's start with the back one. And maybe you'd like to correct me since there are clearly 2 camera bumps on the back side. Well, yeah, it's not what it seems. One is the camera and the other is a depth sensor, made for portrait photos. For most users, this is fine. Photos in daylight are good, nothing spectacular but really okay. Portraits are fine as well, even though I find the contrast a bit too much in most of the images I took. There are some weird artificial things sometimes added, like sharpening the details are a bit too and more. This could be the advertised True Lens Engine 2.0 with Ultra XDR and AI mode for whatever. Even though this is a lot of marketing blah blah, in the end I found the images to be good enough for being a budget camera. And a 50 megapixel one at that. As long as you mostly take photos in good lighting conditions. Now when it comes to selfies, well, expecting €1,000 AI processing multi-HDR selfies is quite a bit much from a €179 phone. I found them also to be okay, almost the same as with the 50 megapixel back camera, and good enough for a budget phone. Let's quickly go over to the design, which in my opinion is a very subjective thing and should not be the deciding factor when it comes to buying a content consumption device. Most of the time you're actually staring at a screen and not the well-designed back cover. But speaking of it, if you don't like it, this phone's back can actually be changed with another color option as well as some accessories which I don't have. Since I don't really care about it, I haven't ordered any of it and haven't tested this. But what I found to be a great option when it comes to modularity is the SD card slot if you're in need of more storage space. It can be upgraded up to 2 terabytes of storage, which is great for storing all the selfies and food photos you are actually going to make. Now the only thing that I found lacking on this phone is something that the statistics that I read at the beginning about smartphone usage actually placed in last position. Maybe you're asking yourself, hey, what is that? Payment via phone. And personally, that is something I use quite often, so I was kind of shocked to read that it does not have any NFC compatibility. And then I read that NFC isn't really common in China and India, which this phone was primarily designed for. There it's mostly a QR code based payment system. But I still found this to be the most frustrating thing about the CMF Phone 1. I would have gladly paid about €20 more for European or US version with the ability to pay with my phone. Other than that, I think this is the perfect budget consumption phone. Now conclusion, for a budget price of €179, this is without a doubt the best smartphone for consumption you can buy. The best screen in combination with the newly styled Android 14, great battery life with lots of good options, and integrated features that makes for a very compelling phone in the end. To me, this is the best consumption device for everyone who is not willing to invest €1,000 for actually just scrolling through TikTok. And let's be honest, why should you when there are so many good, more price-friendly options out there? Thank you very much for watching. My name is Leech and I'm off writing the next scripts. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe to this channel. There are plenty more of this type of content and many other things available for you to watch. Have a great day, see you around, and goodbye.